They expected me to forgive. Instead, I walked out, vanished, and built a life where their lies couldn't touch me. I grew up in a small town outside Madison, thinking family was everything. We weren't the type to go weeks without talking. Everything was said, argued, forgiven, and then moved on. My brother and I were that classic duo, close, competitive, and always compared to one another. He was 2 years younger, charming and reckless. I was the one with the checklist and the plan. My little sister was the baby of the house, soaking up attention like sunshine. Mom Karen ran the ship with a firm hand, and Dad Tom fueled Sunday grills and bad jokes. It all felt steady until it didn't. Brooke came along in college during a group project. She had this magnetic pull. You noticed her right away. Confident, sharp, and impossibly pretty. I fell faster than I meant to. By the end of the semester, we were a thing. A few years later, I popped the question on a cool November evening. Nothing flashy, just us. She said yes. We started planning a summer wedding, and I was sure things were finally lining up the way I'd imagined. Career, kids, quiet Sunday mornings, then March happened. It was a slow Friday at work, and I decided to surprise Brooke with takeout. When I walked in, the apartment had that odd hush shoes scattered by the door, but no music, no TV. I chalked it up to her being on a call until laughter drifted from the bedroom. My stomach flipped. I opened the door and froze. There they were. Brooke and Nate tangled in my bed. Brooke had on the oversized tee I'd bought her for Valentine's Day. They both looked like kids caught stealing cookie dough. Nate blurted, "It's not what it looks like the line would somehow fix the scene." Brooke didn't speak. She just scrambled for the blanket-like cover would rewrite what I'd seen. I didn't yell. I didn't beg for excuses. What do you even say? I told Brooke to pack and go, calm, controlled. I wasn't giving them the satisfaction of a meltdown. Nate stammered about how it just happened, the most pathetic defense possible. I cut him off. "You're dead to me," I said, and left. That night I crashed at a friend's place, staring at the ceiling, feeling everything collapse. It wasn't just the cheating. It was the choice that both of them chose to rip up something real. The next day, Brooke moved out. I thought that would be the end of it, but then a note sat on our counter where our framed photo used to be. She claimed she'd fallen for Nate, that she never meant to hurt me, and then had the gall to say she hoped I could be happy for them someday. Happy for them? The audacity made me laugh in a way that felt more like a sob. I crumpled the note and threw it away. The apartment felt hollow, but I felt strangely unburdened. If she wanted to choose him, fine. Word spread fast. I assume Brooke or Nate told. Mom called furious at Nate, not me, and swore he wasn't welcome. That felt good at first, but I should have known Karen's loyalty came with conditions. Dad's response was a shoulder shrug and a "stuff like this happens," like it was spilled coffee. My sister Lily tried to be on my side, but was clearly torn. I stopped answering calls, sunk myself into work, and tried to breathe. That's when an opportunity arrived. My boss mentioned the Cincinnati office needed a lead, and it would mean a step up and a clean break from Madison. I jumped on it. When I told Dad, he said, "Good, fresh start." Mom pleaded, cried, begged me to think about family dinners and Christmas. I told her straight, "I'm not leaving family dinners. I'm leaving Nate." She promised she'd never take him back. I believed her then. I shouldn't have. By July, Nate was back in Mom and Dad's house. Karen called casually one evening to say he needed a place, and they had room. Like it was no big deal, she'd invited the man who'd betrayed me under their roof and still expected me to show up for Sunday dinners. I told her it was a slap in the face, and she told me we needed to heal as a family. Translation: forgive Nate so she wouldn't feel guilty. I wasn't having it. I told her bluntly I wasn't interested in healing if it meant rewarding the person who tore everything apart. That conversation ended with me hanging up and packing boxes. Leaving Madison was wrenching. Every corner of that city held a memory of what I lost. But staying felt like giving them the power to hurt me forever. I moved to Cincinnati, found a small apartment, and started over. I stopped answering their calls. They chose him. I chose me. Work became my focus. By September, Life in Cincinnati felt like possibility. New rhythm, new friends, new late-night pizza spots. I was rebuilding. I'd cut ties with my family, not because I wanted to punish them, but because I needed to protect the life I was building. Life felt cleaner. The noise from the past dulled. Just when life in Cincinnati felt peaceful, my mom called. Her birthday was coming up, and she asked me to come home for a small family dinner. I hesitated. Things between us hadn't exactly healed, and I wasn't interested in playing pretend. But she insisted it would just be the immediate family, and against my better judgment. I agreed. The moment I pulled into my parents' driveway, I knew I'd made a mistake. The street was lined with cars, way more than a small gathering. My gut twisted when I saw Nate's car parked in front, sitting there like some monument to betrayal. For a second, I debated backing out and driving straight back to Cincinnati. But I didn't want to give my mom the satisfaction of calling me dramatic. I went inside. Karen greeted me with a smile stretched too wide, like she thought enthusiasm alone could hold her crumbling lies together. I scanned the room, and there they were. Nate and Brooke, sitting on the couch like nothing had ever happened. Brooke even had the nerve to laugh at something Lily said. "Why are they here?" I asked, voice low and sharp. My mom grabbed my arm and pulled me into the living room, launching into a speech I'd heard 1,000 times about forgiveness, about family unity, about how Nate and Brooke made a mistake, but were ready to apologize. Nate jumped in with his favorite line, "I'm sorry, man. It just happened," as if cheating with my fiancé was an oopsie. Brooke chimed in with her rehearsed line about never meaning to hurt me. She didn't even pretend to look sorry. I leaned forward, hands clasped, staring straight at Nate. "You're a pathetic excuse for a brother." Then I turned to Brooke. "And you? I hope he does to you what you did to me." The room froze. My mom opened her mouth to scold me, but I stood up before she could speak. "Enjoy your golden boy," I told her. "Don't call me again." And I walked out. Driving away from that ambush, my hands shook from anger, from disbelief, from exhaustion. How could my mother think that was okay? How could she pretend betrayal on that level could be fixed with a pot roast and a group hug? That night, I blocked her number. Blocked Nate's. Blocked Brooke's. I wasn't going to give any of them another chance to manipulate me. For the next several weeks, I threw myself into work. My coworkers thought I was ambitious. Really, I was trying not to drown in anger. I stopped checking social media entirely. I didn't want to see even a glimpse of my family pretending life was fine. Eventually, the rage dulled, replaced by something quieter. Detachment. I didn't care what they were doing. I didn't want updates. I didn't want apologies. The people I thought had my back didn't hesitate to replace me. If they wanted to pretend everything was fine with Nate and Brooke, that was their circus to run. I wasn't stepping foot inside the tent again. Still, I had a bad feeling that my mother wasn't done trying. She didn't give up easily. I knew, eventually, she'd try something new, some surprise intervention, some emotional blackmail, some desperate attempt to drag me back into their chaos. But for the moment, I was content to stay away. By January, Cincinnati genuinely felt like home. I wasn't waking up every day bracing for impact. I wasn't constantly replaying old hurt. I could breathe. I could think. I could be myself without walking on shards of old memories. And then out of nowhere, Sarah messaged me. My distant cousin. Someone I'd spoken to maybe twice in my entire life. She said she was moving to Cincinnati and needed help settling in. Normally, that would have been a hard no. But she'd never wronged me personally, and she seemed genuinely nervous about moving alone. Against my instincts, I said I'd help. I showed up to the address she gave me that Saturday morning, and immediately felt my stomach drop. A U-Haul truck. My dad standing beside it, and Nate carrying a box. For a moment, I just sat in my car, gripping the steering wheel, heart pounding. I should have driven away. I should have protected my peace. But then the apartment door swung open, and my mom stepped out, smiling like this was some joyous family reunion. I got out of the car, but stayed by the door. "What is this?" I asked. Keeping my voice steady, Karen launched into another one of her speeches about coming together and supporting family. It was obvious Sarah wasn't the reason they were here. She was a pawn. This was another setup. Nate stepped forward, eyes watery like he'd practiced remorse in the mirror. "I'm sorry, man. I know I messed up." Stared at him silent. Dad joined in, using his classic disappointed father tone. "You're holding on to a grudge. It's tearing the family apart. Be the bigger man." That was it. That was the moment something snapped inside me. He put a hand on my shoulder to emphasize his point, and before I could think, my fist connected with his jaw. The sound cracked through the air. Dad stumbled back, clutching his face. My mom started crying. Nate muttered something about me going too far, which was hilarious coming from him. I walked toward my car. "Don't follow me," I said, and drove away. Later, I blocked Sarah too. Whether she was in on it or not didn't matter. I wasn't letting any of them wedge their way back into my life. That night, sitting on my couch, I didn't regret throwing that punch. Dad crossed a line, and if that's what it took to make them understand I meant what I said, so be it. But the bigger truth settled heavily. My family wasn't broken. It was built broken, and I wasn't going to fix it. The next morning, I woke up with a strange mix of relief and sadness. Relief because I finally stood my ground. Sadness because punching my own father wasn't something I ever imagined doing. But honestly, the line had been crossed long before my fist ever flew. That was just the first moment they actually felt the consequences of their choices. From that day on, I doubled down on cutting them off. No calls, no texts, no guilt-tripping emails, nothing. They'd pushed me too far for too long, and I wasn't letting them drag me back into their chaos. Cincinnati gave me peace, something my family never could. By December, life felt steady, really steady. I'd built a routine, a work-life balance, friendships, and most importantly, I met someone. Her name was Hannah. She was 24, lived in Chicago, and had this grounded, warm energy that I instantly clicked with. She was smart, funny, and honest in ways I didn't think people could be anymore. And when I told her about the mess with my family, she didn't rush to give advice or question my choices. She just listened. She respected my boundaries without making me feel guilty for having them. For the first time in years, I felt like I could exhale. Hannah invited me to spend Christmas with her family, her parents, her siblings, the whole cozy Chicago suburbs holiday setup. I was nervous at first, but the moment I walked in, they treated me like I'd always belonged there. Her mom fussed over whether I preferred cocoa or mulled cider. Her dad asked about my job. Her siblings roped me into board games. It was warm, effortless, real. Everything a family should feel like. And then, a week before Christmas, I got a letter in the mail. Not an email. Not a text. A physical handwritten envelope with my mom's handwriting on it. My stomach sank. I almost threw it away unopened. But curiosity got the better of me, and I slid the letter out. Mom wrote pages about how the family needed me, how she wanted us all together for Christmas, and then she dropped the bomb. Nate and Brooke got married, and my parents were separated. She didn't go into detail about why, but knowing my family, I could guess. Drama doesn't disappear, it just changes shape. Still, the idea of Nate and Brooke tying the knot made my stomach twist. Betrayal wasn't just a moment for them, it became their life choice. My mom begged me to come home, claimed Christmas could be a chance to heal. Hannah read the letter and looked me dead in the eyes. "You don't owe them anything," she said softly. "If showing up is going to hurt you, don't put yourself through it." She was right. I tossed the letter on the counter and walked away from it, away from all of it. We spent Christmas with her family, and for the first time in my life, Christmas morning wasn't tense or painful. Her family even had a stocking with my name on it. That small gesture hit me harder than anything my own family had done in years. For a brief moment, I wondered what my own family was doing, whether Dad was alone in some motel, whether Mom was pretending everything was fine, whether Nate and Brooke were still play-acting their perfect life. But I shook the thoughts away. I wasn't letting their choices infiltrate this new happiness. January rolled around. I got an email from Lily, my sister. I hadn't heard from her in months. Against better judgment, I opened it. She wrote that Dad was now living in a rundown motel. Nate and Brooke were in debt. Their marriage was rocky. Brooke had lost her job. Nate's work situation was unstable. And she ended the email with, "I just thought you should know. But why? Why should I know? So I could feel bad? So I could rush in and fix it?" That part of me died when I walked out of that ambush. I didn't reply. I deleted the message. I blocked her email. Whatever consequences they were facing, they chose them. I didn't celebrate their struggles, but I wasn't going to let their hardship drag me back into their orbit. I'd spent too long rebuilding myself to risk getting sucked into their spiral. Hannah noticed. I was quiet that night and asked if I was okay. I told her everything. She just squeezed my hand and said, "You've done the work to move on. Don't let them pull you backwards." She was right, and slowly, a new realization began to settle. I didn't miss my family. I missed the version of them that never existed. By spring, life in Cincinnati had become everything I wished my old life could have been, predictable in the best way. My relationship with Hannah was solid. Work was good. My mind was calm. My past was quiet. And the people who once demanded pieces of me no longer had access to anything but my family. They weren't finished with their chaos. One Saturday morning in June, I was lacing up my running shoes when I heard a knock on my apartment door. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I checked the peephole, my chest tightened. It was Lily. I hadn't seen her in over a year. For a split second, I considered pretending I wasn't home. But eventually, I opened the door. She immediately broke down in tears, stepping into the hallway before I even said anything. "I'm so sorry," she sobbed. "I should have stood up for you. I should have done more." Her apology blindsided me. Lily had always floated in the background, never the villain, never the hero. Hearing her take responsibility was unexpected. I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "What do you want, Lily?" She wiped her face, steadying herself. "I cut ties with Nate and Brooke," she said. "And with Mom, I couldn't watch them pretend everything was fine anymore." I didn't respond. Years of disappointment don't evaporate because someone cries on your doorstep. "Dad wants to talk too," she added quietly. "Can we all meet, please?" Every instinct screamed no, but part of me saw how desperate she was. Against my better judgment, I agreed. We met a few days later at a quiet diner outside the city. Lily was already there with Dad when I arrived. I hadn't seen him since the day I punched him, and the tension was thick. He stood as I approached, extending a hand. I ignored it and sat down. "I'm sorry," he said finally, voice low. "I should have protected you. I should have handled things differently. It wasn't much, but it was more than I expected." For a moment, I felt the faintest flicker of hope. Then the diner door opened. My heart sank. My mom walked in, and right behind her, Nate and Brooke. It wasn't a meeting. It wasn't reconciliation. It was another ambush. I pushed back from the booth and stood up. My mom started, "Alex, wait." No, I cut her off. "You're not my family anymore," she froze. "You want forgiveness? Find someone else to manipulate." I tossed cash on the table for my coffee and walked out. They called after me, voices overlapping, but I didn't slow down. That was the moment everything crystallized. There was no going back. No future. No version of family left to save. I had tried. They had chosen, and now I was finished. Time has a strange way of softening chaos. I'm 28 now, and looking back feels surreal, like flipping through someone else's life. But the emotional scars remind me it all happened. And somehow, I survived it. The good news? I came out stronger, calmer, smarter, and with people who actually value me. Hannah and I got engaged last year. It wasn't some dramatic gesture, just a quiet moment in our favorite Cincinnati park. Simple, honest, real. She said yes instantly, tears in her eyes. That was the moment I realized real love doesn't need fireworks. It just needs truth. And the biggest news? We're expecting a baby boy. Every time I think about holding him, I feel this mix of excitement and fear, but Hannah's steady confidence grounds me. We're determined to raise him in a home where love isn't conditional, where loyalty isn't a weapon, where no one has to earn respect by sacrificing themselves. One of the first steps I took toward separating myself completely from the past was changing my last name. I didn't rush it. I thought it might be too extreme at first. But the more distance I put between myself and the people who hurt me, the more I realized my last name felt like a chain. At the courthouse, when the judge signed off on the change, I felt something lift, like I had finally let go of a weight I'd been carrying far too long. I chose a name tied to someone I admired, not someone I was related to. Hannah smiled when I told her and said she couldn't wait to take it too. "We're starting our own legacy," she said, and that hit deeper than anything. I still hear bits about my old family through mutual acquaintances I don't ask. But information finds you when you share a hometown. My parents officially split. Dad's living in a tiny rental. Mom's still in the family house, pretending nothing's changed. Nate and Brooke are drowning financially. Their marriage is crumbling. And Lily, her fiancé, left her a few months before their own wedding. Karma is patient, but thorough. I don't feel joy hearing any of this, but I don't feel guilt either. They chose their path, and I chose mine. The last time my mom contacted me, she sent another handwritten letter begging me to reconnect. I didn't open it. I tossed it straight in the trash. I'm not the keeper of their peace. I'm not the emotional glue they abandoned. One of the biggest lessons I've learned? Family isn't defined by blood. It's defined by behavior. You're not obligated to keep people in your life just because you share DNA. Loyalty without respect isn't loyalty. It's coon. I finally found peace because I stopped trying to resurrect something that died a long time ago. And now, with Hannah and our son on the way, I finally have the family I always deserved.